When people talk about what's happening in Vancouver real estate right now, the conversation almost always gets framed through a very short window of time. People look at what prices have done over the last 12 months, maybe the last 2 years, and they immediately assume that whatever they're seeing right now must define the future. If prices are down, the market must be broken. If prices are flat, something must be wrong. But Vancouver has never been a market that makes sense when you only look at short-term movements. Vancouver always looks extreme when you zoom in. The only way to understand it properly is to zoom out far enough that short-term noise stops dominating the story. That's what this video is all about, extending the timeline, because once you do that, the drops we're seeing today don't disappear, but they shrink. They start to look less like a crisis and more like what they've always been in the city. Temporary interruptions inside a very long cycle. To do that properly, you can't look at raw dollar prices. Dollars are not a stable unit of measurement. Their purchasing power changes over time, and if you don't adjust for that, you end up blaming housing for something that's actually happening to money. So let's start by slowing down and walking through the chart you're seeing on screen right now, because understanding this chart changes how you interpret everything that follows. This data comes from the Federal Reserve Economic Data System, often referred to as FRED. And what matters here is not just the source, but how the data is constructed. This is a real residential property price index for Canada, and real means inflation adjusted. That one word matters more than almost anything else in this conversation. And then there's the index itself. This chart is indexed so that 2010 equals 100. That doesn't mean prices were $100 in 2010. It simply means that 2010 is a reference point. Every move up or down shows how housing prices have changed relative to that year after inflation has already been removed. So when the index is 120, housing is 20% more expensive in real terms than what it was in 2010. When it's at 80, it's 20% cheaper in real terms in 2010. And this allows us to compare decades without being fooled by inflation. Now let's go back to 1980. In 1980, this real house price index set at roughly 51.96. In plain language, that means that after adjusting for inflation, housing prices were about half of what they were in 2010. Already that should challenge the idea that housing has always been expensive or that prices only move in one direction. But now we need to introduce inflation explicitly, because inflation is the backbone of this entire argument. If you take $1 in 1980 and adjust it forward to today, that same dollar needs to be about $3.76 just to buy that same basket of goods. And in other words, money has lost a massive amount of purchasing power over time. That's not unique to Canada. That's not new. That's what long-term inflation does. So now ask a simple but critical question. What would housing prices look like today if they had done nothing more than keep pace with inflation since 1980? If you take that 1980 index value of 51.96 and multiply it by inflation over that period, you arrive at roughly 195.52. And that number is important because it sits just below where the real house price index peaked in 2022. This is one of those moments where you need to pause and let the data speak. What this tells us is that over more than 40 years, a very large portion of what people perceive as explosive growth in housing prices is actually inflation. Housing in real terms didn't massively outpace inflation over that entire period. It largely tracked it. That reframes the conversation completely. Now let's talk about Vancouver specifically, because this city always gets treated as if it exists outside of history. Vancouver has always been supply constrained. Geography limits expansion, zoning limits density, and replacement cost continues to rise, and long-term demand hasn't disappeared just because prices fluctuate. But even with all that, Vancouver has still experienced extended periods where real prices went nowhere. If you pull the data back far enough, you'll see stretches where prices move sideways for years in real terms, not crashes, not booms, just time passing while inflation quietly did the heavy lifting. And that's normal here. It's always been. But what wasn't normal was what happened after COVID. To get that kind of acceleration we saw between 2020 and early 2022, you needed a perfect storm. You needed a global shutdown, you needed emergency level monetary policy, and you needed interest rates pushed to levels that made borrowing historically cheap. When money becomes cheap, asset prices respond, and that's not speculations, that's just simple mechanics. And to slow a market like Vancouver down, you needed the opposite extreme. You needed the highest interest rates we've seen in roughly 20 years, and you needed borrowing costs to rise fast enough that monthly payments became the limiting factor, not price. And once that happened, demand cooled. Not because Vancouver lost its appeal, but because the cost of assessing the same asset changed dramatically. This is where people often confuse price with affordability. Prices didn't stop because housing became undesirable. Pricing slowed because it became more expensive to finance the same purchase. And that distinction matters because financing conditions change over time. While structural demand tends to persist, now when you zoom in on that post-COVID pullback, the drops look sharp, but when you zoom out, especially in Vancouver, they're far less dramatic than the headlines suggest. And we can see that right here. As we go into the Canadian data here, you can see that in this high point in Q1 of 2022, we almost had a doubling, 198.61 in terms of the pricing. So for starters, the benchmark here was 120.10. We almost doubled that in 2022. This is Canada. But when we go to all property pricing and we go to that same peak here, pricing was about 1.252 million for the average price point of all construction types. We are down about 4.5% year over year. And that drop is a lot less dramatic than what we saw here overall in Canada. Again, that just points to how Vancouver can be a great store of value. Due to the fact that land is scarce here, that's why this value continues to perform well. If we change this property type and look at detached, which I think is the best environment for buyers out there, you can see that the decline is a little bit sharper here. We can see that we had, again, in the pinnacle, April 2022, 2.04 million in terms of the average detached around Greater Vancouver. We're now at 1,879. Right? So we are getting close to just over $200,000 drop from the peak. But again, it is a lot less sharp than these declines that we've seen. And keep in mind, this is just from Q3 of 2025. The new data hasn't been updated. Likely this chart is going to drop when it does get updated here in February. So when we look at stores of value, and this is maxed out all the way to 2005, for home sellers, you are only in trouble if you bought within the last 5 years. Right? If you bought any further out from that, you are fine and you've done very, very well. So this whole story about the housing crash is really for new home buyers who bought within the last 5 or 6 year period, because you have not been getting that value. For anyone who has owned, for the last 10, 15, 20 years, you've done very, very well with your asset. And when we pull this back, I can't go as far back as the Fred data to the 1970s, but for the last 21 years, you're still almost well within the 90th percentile of value. And for those who are looking for those blips in terms of how long they last, and like I said, this is over 21 years. If we just pull it back to all property types, these blips don't last very long. We have this state here in 2008 during the financial crash. Things bottomed out and came back up. They flattened out here a little bit. This one took a little bit of time and a nice run up here in 2015. But these little dips here really don't last too long. We know that, what happened here in 2019, 2020, this is all beginning of COVID. But it starts to reassess itself. And what the biggest mistake that a lot of buyers have, and I talk to a lot of you in my database, even those reaching out from YouTube here, when we take a peak like this, say in 2016, or let's go to the financial crisis, right? The market's going down. People are saying, hey, I'm not catching a falling knife. I'm not catching a falling knife here. I'm waiting for more stability. Then they wait for some more stability. And by the time they want to get back into the market, there's more buyers that are feeling the exact same way. There's more competition. It starts to have this upward pressure in pricing. And now buyers are buying in this rate that is significantly higher than if they were in this valley. So I don't want you out there making those same mistakes. And that's why we pulled this data back to show you what's really happening. In these little peaks and valleys here, as long as you're wanting to live in this home for, at least 7 to 10 years, and you're looking for that forever home, you're going to be fine. We're going to get out of this valley here. But for those who are waiting for stability to come back, I just don't understand it. This is what happens all the time. Again, here in 2016, people are waiting for stability. Then the market starts coming up and they purchase in this flat line here. And then, the market drops down and now you're losing money. You don't want to start moving in and making offers when the market is starting to get stable, because you're going to be in the exact same position of a lot of these sellers who's bought within the last 5 years. And then you're going to be like those individuals who bought here in the peaks and then had to sell when things were more on a downward positioning down on pricing. So this is what I'm saying to you. On sellers, it's not really that bad unless you've bought in the last couple of years. Your value is still very, very strong. And if you're a buyer, don't wait for money to get cheaper. Don't wait for you to save more money for down payment because you don't want to pay CMHC insurance. That is something that I hear a lot of people doing as well. That is not a good strategy because you're going to end up paying for a lot more house. And that's exactly why timing the exact bottom is almost impossible and why trying to do so often backfires. Buying property isn't about catching the low tick, it's about understanding where you are in the cycle and how inflation affects future affordability. If inflation continues, and history suggests it does, then even modest real price growth will translate into much higher nominal prices over time. That means future buyers will need to earn more income just to buy the same house. And this is why buying property isn't about beating the market, it's about stepping out of the slow erosion of purchasing power. When you buy a home, you're converting currency into a real asset, and in a market like Vancouver, where land is scarce and replacement costs are high, that conversion matters over long periods of time. This is also why the detached market continues to stand out. Detached homes have fixed supply, you can't manufacture more land, and replacement costs don't go down, and historically, detached properties recover faster and more consistently than other segments when markets stabilize. These drawdowns don't define the cycle, they punctuate it, and when you extend the timeline far enough, volatility smooths out, fear fades, and what you're left with is a market that has always responded to the cost of money, not to short-term emotion. That doesn't mean everyone should buy today. It means people should understand what they're actually looking at when they see these charts. This isn't a broken Vancouver market, it's a market adjusting to the price of capital, and once you separate inflation from real value, the picture becomes much clearer. Decisions become calmer and expectations become more grounded, and the noise stops driving behavior. That's a perspective most people miss, and it's the one that matters if you're thinking in decades, not headlines.